Animators of the Loud House can't catch a break. The last mistake really makes us wonder just how much we don't know about Lincoln. If you're a Loud House superfan, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to never miss another video. Now let's check out 10 mistakes in the Loud House you might have missed. Lisa's clothing. Let's start with the very first episode of the series, called Left in the Dark. The plot of this episode is very simple, but it allows us to get to know every single sibling of the Loud family. Lincoln wants to watch the finale of his favorite series when suddenly the power goes out. If you've watched our other Loud House videos, you'll know that this is also the episode where the show makes one of its tributes to SpongeBob SquarePants. As this was the very first episode, it's probably the one with the most animation mistakes, but there's one that stands out the most. Have you ever noticed Lisa's sweater? This is the only episode that features a dark green sweater on Lisa. In all others, you'll see her wearing a chartreuse color, which is a mix of yellow and green. Apart from her sweater, Lisa's chipped tooth also makes an appearance here, but it disappears in other episodes. Apart from mistakes, the first episode also introduces us to many running gags this show has, and if you're a superfan, we recommend going back and rewatching them all. You'd be surprised how much all the characters have changed since the first time they've appeared on TV. Of course, apart from her sweater, the 4-year-old Lisa still has the same personality throughout the show. And it's precisely why we love her. Whose bike is it anyway? If you have a lot of siblings, you've probably owned quite a few hand-me-downs, from clothes and bikes to other objects that were passed on for sentimental value as well as other reasons. Most children have a love-hate relationship with hand-me-downs. It's safe to say that when your family has 11 children, hand-me-downs are very common, but they're not always appreciated. In an episode called Hand Me Downer, Lincoln gets a pink bike from his 17-year-old sister, Lori. Needless to say, he's not very excited about it. So he ends up borrowing a BMX from his sporty sister Lynn without letting her know. His bike was a hand-me-down from Lynn to Lana, but you can still see him use the same bike in a couple of later episodes. We have no idea what happened and why it happened, but it's safe to say the animation team has their hands full with this many characters. Did Lincoln use his old bike because he didn't like Lori's and took it back from his younger sisters? Don't worry if you're confused, because we are too. We can't blame Lincoln though. He really does not look excited about that pink bike. On the other hand, Clyde looks totally smitten. He probably knows the bike was used by Lori, his longtime crush. Ah, the joys of childhood. Lincoln and Lola. Another interesting mistake is the relationship between Lincoln and Lola. The two are very different characters, but they tend to be allies most of the time. The 6-year-old Lola is a pageant queen that's always sporting a tiara and a sassy attitude. On the other hand, the 11-year-old Lincoln is much more chill and calm. But surprisingly, the two seem to get along for most of the time. Lincoln's nickname for Lola is Sunshine, while Lola called Lincoln Philistine at some point. Their relationship as brother and sister is cute and fun to watch. In an episode called Pulp Friction, Lincoln makes a comic book of superheroes that are based on his sisters. He mentions that every single one of his sisters has his back, but Lola. If you're a Loud House superfan, you know that Lola had Lincoln's back and helped him out plenty of times. Was this a storyline mistake, or something the team behind the Loud House just simply missed? Even though she can be feisty, we promise Lola's not as annoying to Lincoln as she might seem to her other sisters. The two seem to get along for the most part, so we're not sure why Lincoln would think Lola would not have his back. Then again, the pageant queen might just be too busy focusing on other beauty things. Who's Ronnie Ann? Speaking of storylines, sometimes the story of the Loud House takes a completely unexpected turn. You might notice some characters appearing in places you'd never expect them to. In an episode called Shell Shock, we get to see Lincoln interact with Ronnie Ann, who's Lori's boyfriend's little sister. She also has a huge crush on Lincoln. In previous episodes, Ronnie endlessly bullied Lincoln to the point where Lincoln openly admitted he doesn't want to be Ronnie's boyfriend. The things take an interesting turn, and over time his feelings change. The two are seen together in class, but here's the thing. They were never in the same class in any of the previous episodes. Fans aren't sure if this is something that was done on purpose, or did the team just miss out on this tiny detail. Although, since Ronnie Ann's obsession with Lincoln is pretty strong, we can imagine she somehow found a way to transfer herself into Lincoln's class. It wouldn't be the first time a cartoon character did sneaky things like that. Just remember Helga from Hey Arnold? We bet Ronnie Ann learned a few tricks from Helga and used her on Lincoln. We'll have to see until further episodes to determine whether or not this was a storyline mistake. It would definitely be weird if Ronnie would suddenly be back in her old classroom. Lynn and Lincoln. Speaking of interesting relationships, Lynn and Lincoln are known not to get along. Although they're very similar in age, the 13-year-old Lynn is far too competitive and usually makes a competition out of everything. If you have siblings, you know what that's like. Not a day goes by without someone being declared a winner in something completely unrelated. Well, the relationship between Lynn and Lincoln is kind of similar. These two can often be seen fighting, and it's no secret that Lynn sometimes even bullies Lincoln. But here's the thing, the two have been roommates in an episode called Room with a Feud, where they proved they don't really make good roommates at all, and there are several other episodes out there where they seem to get along just fine. While it's true that the interactions between siblings are completely unpredictable, we still don't know whether this was a mistake in the storyline or just something that was done on purpose. Lynn also believes Lincoln is bad luck whenever he comes to her games and sports events because she tends to lose whenever he's there. You have to admit it, their sibling rivalry is sometimes absolutely hilarious. Lynn is one of the most tomboyish siblings out of the Loud family. She'd probably make a competition out of who's the most tomboyish with her 6-year-old sister, Lana. Children's allergies. Each of the Loud House characters has a unique personality, usually described down to a T. We get to learn everything about them, what they like, what they dislike, and other secrets they don't even tell their own family. But here's an interesting character trait that seems to change in the Loud House. Allergies are very common, and it's safe to say that out of 11 siblings, there would probably be at least one that's allergic to something. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case with the Loud House. In an episode called One Flew Over the Loud House, Lincoln mentioned that nobody has any allergies in the family. However, in Fool's Paradise, we discover that Lana is actually allergic to rhubarb after her face swells up when she eats rhubarb pie. She then claims that she's allergic to rhubarb and doesn't eat it anymore. But here's an issue we managed to find. A rhubarb allergy doesn't actually seem to exist. It's extremely hard to determine whether or not someone is allergic to rhubarb as the vegetable isn't commonly eaten. Rhubarb allergies aren't exactly common, and they usually come from a different food source. So would Lana really be able to know she's allergic to rhubarb in the first place? Although when answering the question whether the family has any allergies, we're pretty sure someone like Luann would say they're only allergic to each other. Lenny doing her nails. Here's an interesting one. The 16-year-old Lenny is very much a girly girl who is quite the fashionista. She's always sporting her awesome white sunglasses and a cute outfit. The only sibling who's probably just as interested in doing girly things is the 6-year-old Lola. In an episode called A Tale of Two Tables, we see Lenny and Lori hanging out on the sofa. They're not in a particularly good mood, and Lenny's doing her nails while Lori's on her phone, as always. But here's the thing, the characters in the Loud House, much like most of the cartoon characters, don't even have visible nails. So what exactly is Lenny doing? She's also seen painting her nails in the same scene, which we don't even see from Lola. Was this just an interesting insight into what the animation team is capable of, or a mistake? It's definitely interesting seeing Lenny pamper her up and revealing parts of her body like her fingernails that we never even knew she had in the first place. Speaking of the two fashionistas, which one do you think is a bigger pageant queen? The two are one of the few sisters that are seen wearing earrings. We also learn that Lenny doesn't wear socks, and she really does not know how to cook. Lori's white lies. Let's explore some more mistakes in the Loud House that you might have missed. These are impressive, and we can imagine that they were only picked up by superfans. Let's spend a few moments talking about the 17-year-old Lori. Lori's the oldest in the family, and she's always seen as the most dominating of the bunch. She has no issues in letting her siblings know that she's the oldest and that they should do what she tells them to do because of it. But Lori's storyline and personality have gone through a few changes over the seasons. We call them Lori's white lies. They're not that serious, but they're pretty interesting. In an episode called The Greenhouse, Lori has no idea what the Mona Lisa is. In one of the previous episodes, Lori did actually understand the reference to Mona Lisa. In an episode called Come Sail Away, Lori is seen wearing earrings in a photo from a couple of years ago. She mentions she received them from Bobby, her boyfriend, but we found out from another episode that Lori and Bobby were only dating for a few months. Were they really Bobby's earrings? Was this a white lie that hinted she got them from another boy in her life, or was it simply a mistake in the storyline? Lincoln's friends. It seems like Lincoln is the character that's involved in most of the mistakes we've mentioned today. Did you know that his hair is white because the original characters of the Loud House were supposed to be rabbits? It's also the reason behind Lincoln's buck teeth. Ronnie Ann's relationship with Lincoln deserves to have a separate entry, but let's spend a moment talking about Lincoln's friends. The series introduces us to Clyde, Liam, Zach, and Rusty, who are Lincoln's classmates. We absolutely love their individual look and the fact that both Clyde and Rusty have a crush on one of Lincoln's sisters. But here's the thing that's bothering us with Lincoln's friends. Lincoln is supposed to know his classmates for 5 years, but in Hand Me Downer, Lincoln meets Rusty for the first time. In fact, Rusty was one of those kid bikers that laughed at Lincoln's pink bike that's also a mystery on its own. So, what really is the story behind Lincoln's friends? How long did he know them for? He seems to get along with Rusty now, but we doubt he knew him as long as he knew his other classmates. Again, this could be something the creators completely missed. Or it was done on purpose so we could talk about the show in this video. Speaking of Lincoln's friends, our favorite is definitely the adorable Clyde. How about you? Lincoln and Lily. And last but not least, let's talk about the relationship between Lincoln and Lily. We made quite a few Loud House videos so far, but we barely talk about the 15-month Lily considering she hasn't yet developed a personality like her other siblings. Each sibling has their own relationship with Lily, but Lincoln and Lily seem exceptionally close, and we often see him take care of her. Lily is a happy baby that usually doesn't cause much trouble, and the two seem to really get along. But we have no idea whether Lincoln is actually able to take care of Lily or not. In an episode where Lincoln and Clyde babysit Lily, it looks like they are really struggling with taking care of her. But yet, in a couple of previous episodes, Lincoln has no problems with being there for Lily, babysitting her, and making sure she's a happy baby. It looks like we really don't know the real Lincoln, and we're blaming it all on the team behind the Loud House. What do you think? We bet Lincoln is totally capable of taking care of his little sister, as it was proven in so many other episodes. We can't wait to see what kind of person Lily will turn out to be as she gets older. Want more of the Loud House on this channel? Make sure you like this video and subscribe. Don't forget to check out